I'm a volunteer guide, and I think I've met some of you people earlier today. And also too, we have Roy, who's driving this tour. As we get started, if you can just please remain seated while the bus is moving. The reason being that we're going through the habitats of the animals, and they have the right of way, and they do take their right of way. So if Roy has to stop the bus suddenly, you're much safer sitting down. Also too, if you've got a mobile phone on board, please, for the comfort of others, if you would turn it off or down, that would be deeply appreciated. And finally, if you've got any questions about any of the animals that we're going to see, do ask. However, you've got to yell at me because I'm a bit deaf. Plus Roy instead. Coming up on your right, we've got Wallaby Gorge. This is the home of our little colony of yellow-footed rock wallabies. We've had a very successful captive breeding program here at Monarto, to the point that we've been able to re-release these little wallabies into their natural habitat at the Aruna Dam near Lee Creek. Once you've had your bus ride and you've gone to see the cheetahs, etc., you can take a stroll through Wallaby Gorge and get really close up to these little animals, and you get a really good view of them and plenty of photographs. While I'm talking about captive breeding, I just wanted to mention to you that here at Monarto, as with the Adelaide Zoo, we are deeply committed to conservation. We exist to save animals from extinction, and we do this in various ways. We do have our captive breeding programs, as I've mentioned to you, of exotic and Australian native animals, and also too we help organisations around the world to save the habitats of animals that are endangered. So we do work in many ways to save the animals. The first animal you're going to have a look at is actually an animal that did become extinct in the wild in the 1960s. This is the Mongolian wild horse, also known as Przewalski's horse. Also known to the Mongolians as the Taki. In fact, it is now their national emblem. But this is a purely wild horse. It cannot be tamed. So if there are any little children who love riding horses, don't even think about trying to ride one of these, because it would buck you off and it would give you a bite and a kick to send you on your way. They are, as you can see, they're smaller than a domestic horse, and they've got an erect mane, and they do not got a forelock like your domestic horse has got. They're a very robust little animal. They are capable of living in temperatures of -40 degrees in the desert in Mongolia to +40 as we do have here. So very tough horses indeed. And they live in a group led by a stallion, and the stallion is very, very protective of his foals and his mares. And if they are attacked by wolves in their natural habitat in the Gobi Desert, the stallion will stand between his mares and the wolf, and he will attack the wolf pack quite freely and kick and bite, and he's very, very successful defender of his family. These little horses have been around for 20,000 years. We know this because cave paintings have been found in the south of France clearly depicting these horses, and they have dated them back 20,000 years. They did disappear for a little while. Their habitat decreased quite dramatically, to the point that the authorities in Europe feared that they had actually already become extinct. However, in the 1870s, a gentleman by the name of Nikolai Przewalski, who was an explorer and a naturalist, led an expedition through the Gobi, and he happened to come across about 250 of these little horses, so it certainly showed that they weren't extinct. When he reported his findings to the authorities in Europe, they asked for another expedition to be sent out, and this happened in 1900, and they captured some 56 little foals, and they walked them all the way back to Europe. And that was a horrendous journey for them, and not all the foals made it, but those that did were adjusted amongst the various zoos where breeding programs were undertaken, to the point that their numbers built up and they were able to re-release them into the Gobi in 1992. So that was a thumbs up for conservationists. And another thumbs up for conservationists is this big beastie that you're looking at over my shoulder right now. This is the North American bison. Around the 17th century, it was estimated that 60 million of these animals roamed the Great Plains of America to between Canada and Mexico. However, with the advent of the white settlers, they decided to have a big cull on these animals, and that cull was very successful indeed because their numbers were reduced to 800. That was an appalling slaughter, and the animal almost became extinct. Fortunately though, a society was established in 1905 called the American Bison Society, and in conjunction with the American natives they set up a captive breeding program which was very successful, and they were able to re-release these animals into their natural habitats, some of that being the Yellowstone National Park in America. We're going to get a really close-up view of these fellows. Really good view, folks. A big male can measure 2 metres at the shoulder and weigh 1,000 kilograms, and they can be quite aggressive. So Roy is watching these fellows closely, and if he sees them roll their eyes and he sees the white of their eyes and he sees their tails curl up into a question mark, he's going to go zoom zoom and get out the way, because they have been known to attack the buses, haven't they, Roy? And how do you explain to your insurance company that you were rammed by bison? They look a little bit shaggy at the moment. They're still shedding their winter coat, and they love to do that by actually rolling in the dirt and scratching on bits of wood and poles and things. So, but that coat is quite amazing, because when they live in America and they're in the snowbound countryside, snowflakes can fall on their coat and the snowflake will not melt. That is how good it is at insulating them from the weather outside. You know, oh, I've got a little baby there. See the little baby one? Yes. She was born in July and she weighed all of 20 kilograms when she was born. When she was born, she was actually a reddish brown colour, but now she's darkened up to be the colour of her mother and her father. And she's just starting to develop her hump, because when she was born she looked just like the calf of cattle and did not have that hump. That doesn't develop until she's about 2 or 3 months old, so she's on her way to growing up. Still we're going. You might think they're very large animals, but they're very athletic animals. These fellows can run at 50 to 60 kilometres an hour for many, many kilometres when they migrate. They can swim rivers that are over 1 kilometre wide, and I've seen photos of them jumping a barbed wire fence that in the old terminology is 3 feet high. So if you've got one of these beasties chasing you, climb a big tree and stay up it. As we travel around today, we're going to be travelling through various gates, and these gates are solar powered, and Roy is operating the gates with his remote control here, and so far so good. Because on overcast days sometimes the remote controls don't work.